Can we start, Purushottam?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We can start, sir. We can start. So Balaji sir,
myself, I am Balaji, project coordinator for Regional Science Center Tirupati. Today we all know the birth anniversary of Charles Darwin, and there is no need to tell who is Darwin because we all know he proposed the theory of evolution with his remarkable voyage, which was done in 1831-36. So this year, to commemorate his birth anniversary, Regional Science Center is organizing webinar, and people has to know how he has conducted his voyage, what are the important factors, how he has done it, and how he proposed or came to a conclusion about different species around the world. So without wasting much time, we are fortunate enough to have Dr. S. Krupanidhi, who is the professor and head Department of Biotechnology, Chairman Vigyan Foundation for Science, Technology and Research, Guntur, to deliver this wonderful lecture. And I request Dr. Krupanidhi sir to please, sir, we are welcoming you to deliver this lecture, and you can now start the lecture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Am I audible to you all?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Am I visible also?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
you are visible.
Good evening to you all, learners and enthusiastic science, education, and also cultivation. And today, this evening, we are now commemorating the 213th the birth anniversary of a great visionary, Charles Darwin. And we're all quite happy to be part of this webinar, wherein we are going to look into the glory and achievements of the great visionary and thinker, Charles Darwin. So I'm also thankful to Regional Science Center, Tirupati, for inviting me to give a talk in this webinar. And I'm equally thankful to my student, Dr. Gopi Chandran, who initiated this program. So with this, let us make my attempt to make you all to appreciate this topic. Here we are chosen. I was given the topic, the H M S Beagle, Her Majesty's Ship, Beagle Voyage of Charles Darwin. So to this topic, I added another few words. Do we believe apes are angels? Understand through the H M S Beagle Voyage of Charles Darwin. So usually, in my talk of 36 slides that I am presenting now, no apes were shown, no angels were shown. But the hidden idea will be, ultimately, we believe apes, the existence of apes, not the existence of angels, that we understood through HMS Beagle Voyage of Charles Darwin. Let us go to the next slide, contents of my presentation. Charles Darwin, early life and challenges and accolades. So that will be a few slides, and this whole 36 slides are made in such a way that school-going children, college students, and also those who are aspiring to learn science will follow this. So like this, it is taken these slides. Charles Darwin, early life and challenges and accolades. The next few slides will be on initial events prompted Darwin's adventure. Darwin's life in 5 creative periods. The HMS Beagle Voyage of Charles Darwin. Galapagos diversity influenced on the concept of variation and adaptation. Ideas that shaped Darwin's thinking and descent of man, wherein rudimentary body parts are seen. Associates of Darwin in unraveling the concepts. New terms arose. The magnificent edifice. New terms arose soon after the advent of the concept of natural selection. How natural selection operated on man. We human beings are also under the evolutionary force, under the pressure of the evolution. So that's what the natural selection. Let us go now. Charles Darwin, the man behind the concept of natural selection. He is a visionary. The details how he is a visionary, we are going to see in the next few slides. He was born on 12th February 1809, almost around 200 years back. There were several people, several bishops, several people were born. We are not commemorating their birth anniversaries. We are commemorating the birth anniversary of Charles Darwin because he introduced to humanity that we're all under the evolutionary forces. We're all subject to evolutionary forces. He was the fifth child of his parents who were blessed with 6 children. His grandfather was a medical professionist, Erasmus Darwin. His father was also a doctor, medical doctor, Robert Waring Darwin. Mother is Susanna Wedgwood. Darwin's family, Wedgwood family, there's more interaction. There's more interlinking, intertwined. And they belong to Shrewsbury in England. So Charles Darwin, life companion, Emma Wedgwood. Darwin was close with his maternal uncle family, like any one of us. In India also, we are close to our maternal uncles, like that in 200 years back also. So this was the situation. Darwin's sister married Wedgwood's cousin. Darwin married again Emma Wedgwood. Unfortunately, Darwin lost his mother at the age of his 8th years. So here, the early life of Charles Darwin, parents are having a lot of ambition on their children. The parents wanted him to be a doctor because grandfather and father and also brother were in medical field. He was unable to go to the medical profession. Later, at least a respectable profession, those were the days for the priest. Even that also, he could not go. Ultimately, he became a Nobel scientist. If he would have been a doctor, none of us would have remembered him. If he would have been a priest, none of us would have been remembered him. Because he became a Nobel scientist with a visionary thought. We're all now commemorating his 213th birth anniversary. Okay, let us see now. 1818, that is around 9 years of his age, he enrolled Shrewsbury Grammar School. That is very near to his house, residence. He used to go by walk. He has got all intimacy with the family, parents. Dr. Samuel Butler was the headmaster, and he was the headmaster till the time because Darwin completed his matriculation and did not regard Darwin with favor. Never Darwin was praised by Samuel Butler because he was never in the rank in the school. Darwin's brother was already a medical student at Edinburgh. Darwin was not keen on medical education, even though parents were insisting. Darwin's father wanted him at least to be a priest, as I was mentioning to you earlier, because it was a respectable position. Every parent anticipates their children to be in a respectable position, but even that he declined. In 1831, Darwin qualified for BA degree, not BA honors, BA degree. He was 10th in the list, the Christ College. So why we're all narrating this is, so this is all the thing for which he did not come. He has come for a cause. He has come for a cause. Okay, he confessed that he learned nothing in that BA degree, because whatever he learned during that time did not help him to achieve his goal. So now let us see the challenges, accolades of Charles Darwin. The theory of natural selection elicited a sensation. Those were the days when Aristotle theory was dominant, that everything was created on the globe. Nothing was evolved. So that is the hidden principle everyone is believing. But now Charles Darwin was giving a new concept. That is, everyone is under the evolutionary pressure. As a result, natural selection takes the lead in shaping the species or in declining the species, whether the species is going to become extinct. So this theory of natural selection elicited a sensation. Darwin was condemned by the contemporary bishops. Charles Darwin denied biblical account of creation, because evolution never believes on creation. Okay, he was accused of attacking religion, because religion, everyone says we're all the children of God. We're all the children of God. So he was accused of attacking religion, the church, and the God. Secular scholars also protested that Charles Darwin had violated the law of creation, the law of reason. They claimed that Darwin transgressed the properties of science. Okay, thus Darwin's controversy also invaded the discussions in British Parliament. That's what Charles Darwin was not knighted like other scientists. So these are a few challenges he faced almost throughout his life. Later, in the later half of his life, he was very much confident that whatever theory that is proposed, there are good proponents of this theory of natural selection. The accolades that Charles Darwin received was organic evolution, and the concept of natural selection had become a scientific dogma. Now, as you see now in India, also we got Biotech, Krishna Ella has produced this covaxin. Nearly half of the Indian population has taken this vaccine. So it has, as a result, this Bharat Biotech and Dr. Krishna Ella will be remembered by everyone. So like this, natural selection became a scientific dogma. Like this, even Bill Gates, who started the Microsoft, all over the world, people give a sort of a respect for this Bill Gates concept. So like this, Charles Darwin became an international figure. Darwin was celebrated as Copernicus of new science. So Copernicus and Aristotle were dictating the science, were dictating everything. Whatever they said that needs to be followed, those were the days. So now Darwin was celebrated as the Copernicus of new science. Darwin was hailed as the Newton of natural history for all the accolades. Charles Darwin has become a symbol now. Now everyone speaks biochemical component of Charles Darwin's theory and genetic component of Charles Darwin's theory and ecology relating to the Charles Darwin's theory. So several theories have come here to become a symbol now. The doctrine of evolution has become a favorite aspect called collection. Now, a few initial events led Darwin's adventure. Any one of us in the beginning may think that I wanted to become a lawyer, I want to become a doctor, I want to become an IAS officer. So for that, there are certain environment around. So those things are the initial events. Here also, for Charles Darwin experienced a few initial events for his adventure, for his voyage, for his thinking. So Charles Darwin was a great thinker. Thinking means, that is, linking and recalling of one event with another. Linking and recalling of one event with another, so as to solve a particular situation. That is the definition we give for thinking. So as a result, Charles Darwin was linking one event with the other by reading several of the topics from Lamarckian theory of evolution, and also interacted with Mr. Audubon, lectures on birds in natural history, society. He was inquisitive to learn several other aspects, but in this case, Charles Darwin did not get exposed. Charles Darwin did not get exposed to Gregor's Mendel, the father of genetics concepts. If he must have been exposed, this means the natural selection must have been given a different shape. Okay, now he was inquisitive to learn taxidermy, that is stuffing of animals and shaping of the animals. He was in search of experts to teach him elements of taxidermy. Why I'm mentioning this is what prompted Charles Darwin to get into the voyage. Later he met a presiding officer of Royal Society, Sir Walter Scott. He collected marine animals and was given rare molluscan shells for stuffing. In this process, he understood the adaptive features of the specimens with that of the nature. This attempt stirred him and helped him to grow. So later, with all this background knowledge, later he met Professor John Henslow. Professor John Henslow was a science teacher and founder of the Cambridge University Botanic Garden at Cambridge. Professor John Henslow offered Charles Darwin the opportunity to participate in an exciting voyage of scientific exploration through HMS Beagle. That is our title now. So Professor John Henslow contributed for his attempt in HMS Beagle. Darwin's appointment as a naturalist on HMS Beagle was the most crucial event of his early years, for it was the Beagle's experience for 5 years, which enabled Darwin to discover himself. Through that only now, all over the world, we are all speaking organic evolution. We are all confidently, with all intuition, we are speaking organic evolution and natural selection. Now, Charles Darwin's life is conveniently divisible into 5 creative periods, as of any one of us are having young, youth, adult, and all those things. So 1809 to 1831 is early life of Charles Darwin, with the parents, with in-laws, and with the early education, with all the force at home to read, medicine or priest. Ultimately, he has chosen this field of natural scientist. In 1831 to 1836, with the help of his teacher, Dr. John Henslow, he got into the Beagle, HMS Beagle, 5 years. So it is not a jolly trip that he had, as we are all going. It is an exploration expedition. It is an exploration expedition that he had something in mind. That's what called vision. He's got something in mind. That's what called the vision. So through this vision, and he has now given to us the natural selection concept. And 1837, 1842, beginning of evolution research. So it is an expedition wherein he collected enormous data. It is 5 years program. It's not 5 days. It's 5 years program. 5 years program is not at his residence. It is across the globe. That is total Earth. He underwent the round. So this 5 years program, with all the data, there is a requirement of the people to work. So beginnings of the evolution research. And from 1842 to 1859, Origin of Species, a book was sketched by them. And 1859 to 1882, exemplification of the evolutionary doctrine from the release of the book of Origin of Species. So with all these things, that is nearly 73 years of fruitful life Charles Darwin had. And it's only for us, Charles Darwin made this type of contribution to the humanity, so as to learn, so as to get to know the organic evolution, so as to get to know that we're all the descendants of the ancestral specimens. Charles Darwin was never idle. He was always thinking and doing work for the developments of scientific, what is it called, understanding. He was never comfortable except at work. Only while doing the work he was happy. So that's what most of the you children, while you are drawing in the classroom, while you are making a calculations, you're all quite happy. So that's what he was never comfortable. Only at work he was comfortable. The books that he wrote was Origin of Species, Descent of Man, Domestication, Voyage of Beagle, and Orchids, and several others. A few I mentioned here for the lack of time. Okay, now let us see the HMS Beagle Voyage of Charles Darwin. So the date that it commenced is December 27, 1831. So in Darwin's role, there are nearly 70 people were involved. And these 74 people were involved. Naturalist Charles Darwin's role in this beagle was a naturalist. The name of the ship is HMS Beagle, Her Majesty Ship Beagle. Destination is wide around the world. It's not across the ocean. It is around the world. We'll see the path. The next slide. Destination is wide around the world. Findings, evidence to propose a revolutionary hypothesis. So that's what now we are putting. At that time, it was also unaware. Everyone was believing creation. Everything was created. So with the hidden idea, Charles Darwin made a trip. Ultimately, the hypothesis that he has provided to all of us is a revolutionary hypothesis, because against the, what is it called, Aristotle, what is it called, creation, everything was created, that was impregnated in the minds of the people. But how life changes over time. On board of the ship, there are 74 people along with the Captain Fitzroy. Now let us see the path of this beagle. HMS Beagle Voyage of Charles Darwin. Captain Robert Fitzroy. So Robert Fitzroy photograph is shown here. Set sail from Plymouth Sound. This is what the England, this is the portion where the Plymouth Sound in England on December 27, 1831. Initially planned for 2 years of survey expedition. Ultimately, the voyage took 5 years and circumnavigated the world. So the route, let us know the route now. From Plymouth, they came towards Cape Verde. It is west of Africa. There is an island. From there, they have come to the South America, back here. From there, ultimately, they took ground and went to Galapagos. Here, Charles Darwin has got an enormous data on the adaptation, on the variation, and the variability and manifestation of the variables. All those things he collected, enormous data collected. So these Galapagos Islands are in the country Benin, Ecuador. After Darwin has visited this Galapagos Islands, and these Galapagos Islands have become an international tourist spot now. All over the world, a sort of a tour towards Galapagos Islands to get to know the diversity, biological diversity. How many of us have gone in our own Andhra Pradesh, the Horsley Hills, Araku Valley, or Nelapattu Bird Sanctuary? There are several places also in our Andhra Pradesh. You school children and college students, see that you all visit this natural beauty. Even our Tirumala Hills also, there's good amount of the taxonomic information one can collect. Not only, even the Regional Science Center at Tirupati must provide good amount of the information. So it's all students make a trip to all the centers, so that it gives a sort of a ignite among the children, what to investigate further. So from Galapagos Islands, he took later in that circumnavigation, he went to this Australia, Sydney. From Sydney, Hobart Islands. From there again, he came down to the Cape Town of the south of Africa. From there, he went again back to Bahia. From there, he through Cape Wendy, he went to Plymouth. So that is the route. So this route nearly took 5 years, and different climatic conditions, different type of vectors like mosquitoes, different type of feeding and all those things. It is God's grace, you can say, that he has made this attempt very well, and he came back and produced enormous data, compiled the data, and has given us the, what is this called, the concept of natural selection. So in this trip, Darwin deduced that Isthmus of Panama was once open. In Galapagos Islands, there is Isthmus of Panama. It is closed. So it is now deduced that once upon a time Isthmus of Panama was open. That was the inference. The marine inhabitants of the eastern and western shores of South America are very distinct, but still around 30% of fishes are the same on the opposite sides of the Isthmus of Panama. Not only fishes, even the shrimps. And this fact has led naturalists to believe that Isthmus was formerly open. So that's what here it is North America, it is the South America. Okay, so this was Isthmus of Panama. So once upon a time it was open. That's what I'll be telling you in the next slide. So this is now closed because of the geological drift. As a result of this close, now the population in the Caribbean Sea, the population is in the North Pacific Ocean. They are now isolated, allopatric speciation. That is physical barrier. The physical barrier between them is Panama, Isthmus of Panama. So now once the species between the two are nearly more than 30% are identical. So that's what Charles Darwin predicted, that this Isthmus of Panama was once upon a time open. So that's what here, allopatric isolation of the population was shown here, and Isthmus of Panama, this region was closed. As a result, here isolated population of shrimp and fishes, here again isolated population of shrimps and fishes. So this is what the shrimps in Caribbean Sea and North Pacific Ocean. This is what the Caribbean Sea, here North Pacific Ocean. So they are all now separated because of allopatric, that is barrier, and now the artificial Panama Canal is made. It's nearly 80 kilometers for the ships to move. And earlier, the Isthmus of Panama, what we see here is not this much continuous. It was fragmented and broken. So now the allopatric speciation in snapping shrimp. So this was the earlier Galapagos Islands before the formation of the Isthmus of Panama. This is the Isthmus of Panama now. So the shrimps that are separated by allopatric speciation. So the, what is it called, phylogeny of these shrimps have been worked out. So here in this context, I wish to let you know, all scientists and college and school children, that this biology, natural science, life sciences is not basically meant for those who opt for this. Any discipline like computer science, information technology, even mechanical engineering, biomedical engineering, people can work with this. I will give you a few examples here. So this is a phylogenetic tree. This is made by using some of the software tools like MEGA, MEGA. That is what is it called? Evolution. That is evolution of genetic. What is it? MEGA. That is the abbreviation is there. What I wish to let you know here is this MEGA was a software tool was devised by one of our Indians, S. Kumar, in association with Japan and American scientists. And like this, there are hundreds of these phylogenetic tools like PhyLip and Mr. Base and Raxmall and several others. So several of the computer programming people can evaluate this type of the data. So why I'm telling here is the biological data is bewildering, enormous data. Even in the government data is far less compared to the biological data. So all the data need to be compiled. Still there is enormous scope. Okay. So after having done about this phylogenetic tree, let us see the Vicariant. Vicariant means a mechanical isolation. So this is what is happening is that is a mechanical barrier has come. Through this barrier, the species have been totally isolated. So isolation between Pacific and Caribbean populations after the emergence of the Isthmus phenomenon. So their phylogenetic trees have been identified. So these two constitute the primary cluster. This constitutes the secondary cluster. This is the tertiary cluster. This constitutes a sort of a what is it called? A group. This constitutes a group. So now let us see the animals in the Galapagos attracted the attention of Charles Darwin. So particularly the Darwin finches. We're also seeing the birds, but we see the beauty among the birds. We may not bother about the beak and perch mechanism and the beaks we have to see whenever we look into the bird. And we are going to have the details of this Darwin finches in the next slide. And also land tortoises and blue-footed booby. See the blue-footed booby. This is having a sexual dimorphism, having the blue foot, particularly this type of the bird. And again, this marine iguana. Marine iguana is again a vegetarian. All reptiles are insect feeders or some other feeders, but this feeds on algae. So and again, it is having it spits the salt because it feeds on the marine algae. Spits the salt. And apart from that, this algae, I'm telling you with reference to this algae, the spirulina. When marine iguana is feeding an algae and growing very well, there is spirulina which is having good amount of protein that easily you can grow at home. You being school students and college students, try to grow spirulina at home, and it is very good, protein rich and mineral rich and fiber rich, good for health. So this is the beagle. This is what I was telling to you. In the next slide, I will show you the beagle, and I will show you this Darwin finches. Finches are very interesting with regard to their beaks. Now, if we take up a few of the finches are tree finches. Among the tree finches, a few of them are parrot beak. This is the parrot beak. This grasping beaks, and this is probing beak, and this is warbler beak where it sings like our parrot. And again here, this is a beak where cactus. It feeds on cactus, and these are all the finches which feed on the seeds in the ground. So like this, several of these finches he made a note. As a result, they were designated as Darwin's finches. So now there are good many number of YouTubes have come. There are good many number of display units have come in Google's. I wish you all tonight see the YouTube connections of the Galapagos Islands, Charles Darwin, Darwin finches. So as a result, we will get an idea. See what is happening. See this beak, how sharp it is, and how it makes a sort of a singing voice out of this. So all these things we need, because there's a lot of mechanical engineering involved here. So they make nest, and again they move along with this for collecting the food and feed this. What is it called? The small. What is it called? Their young ones. Their young ones are called nestlings. Okay. Now, after having gone through this Darwin finches, let us see the tortoises, land tortoises. So there are three types of the land tortoises. See here, what is happening is, as a variety develops, from the variety, the characters are manifested. Once the accumulated characters are manifested, they are going to become a species. So like that, they all have become individual species, single species. Now let us see here. There are in the Galapagos Islands, there are many number of islands wherein there is an island by name Hood. There is an island by name Hood. See here, this particular tortoise is having like that of our giraffe neck, So this type of giraffe neck has developed here so as to approach its food. So all the animals have to survive by taking in food. So in such of the food, it keeps protruding its neck. As a result, the neck has become longer here, and again the saddle back shell here. Like that, if you go to this, it is having very smooth dome-shaped shell, but it is having short neck. The short neck refers to that is a ground feeder. It is not like this of the tortoise. It does not pierce its neck for procuring of the food. The next one is the Pinta Island. Pinta Island, it is intermediate between this long neck and the short neck, and this is what intermediate. So like this, the three types of tortoises were detected, and they were all given a sort of phylogenetic link, and their structures, morphological structures, were interpreted in relation to their habitat and habits. Now, the interpretation made on the observations of Charles Darwin are as follows. So, natural selection acts only by the preservation of the characters and accumulation of small inherited modifications. Each of these modifications should be profitable to the preserved being. That is, if I get modified means whatever the characters which I inherited, they should be beneficial for my existence. Then only the natural selection operation will be understood. If any one species does not become modified, or improved in a corresponding degree with its competitors, it will be exterminated. So that's what we are coming across several of the extinct species. Dinosaurs, though the dinosaurs are very big specimens, they were unable to survive because they were unable to get adapted to the changes, evolutionary forces. So the variations which are beneficial, profitable variations will always be preserved, and they will be naturally selected. Now let us see this particular grid. Very interesting grid. Of course, most of them look like lines, horizontal lines and vertical lines. But this is like this. We have to explain the concepts. So there are several horizontal lines here. There are 10 horizontal lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 10. Between the two horizontal lines, 1,000 generations. 1,000 generations. Okay, 1,000 generations. Okay, so like this, by 10 means 10,000 generations. And now these are all the species: A species, B species, C species, like that. L species are represented here. So A species has undergone good amount of variation, good amount of modification, and those modifications are manifested, nurtured, and naturally selected. As a result, ultimately it has given 3 individual species: A10, F10, and M10. 3 individual species. One more thing that we have to see is it is after 10,000 generations, but in between modifications have come. Those modifications were not completely nurtured; they become extinct. They all become extinct. Only the nurtured modifications, varieties, are being selected by the natural selection. When you go to the other species, B did not undergo development. Like this, we have got a few examples: Peripatus in the arthropods, and Spinodon and Archaeopteryx. These are all specimens which are not undergone any change over the time. So that's been shown here. Okay. So now let us see the description of this. Varieties are modified descendants of the common parent. Here, common parent is A, of which several varieties have come, and they will go on diverging in characters in successive generations. That's what when frog has emanated from the aquatic, what is it called, ancestors. Over the time, it developed as a tetrapod with lung breathers. Okay, so like this, divergent modifications must have been augmented. These modifications over the time have been intensified, have been augmented from A1 to the A10 generation. So after 10,000 generation species, A is supposed to have produced 3 forms here, as I mentioned earlier: A10, F10, and M10, having divergent characters during successive generations. Okay, thus this diagram illustrated the steps on which small differences among varieties are accumulated over the generations into the larger differences with distinguished species. So that's what this diagram is a good explanation of the natural selection and adaptation and varieties manifesting in the biological species. So the operating principles of natural selection. So ultimately, we're condensing the what is it called the natural selection topic into this 5 or 6 principles. So criticality of production. So that is there is a rapid multiplication of the species. If you say a crab, a gravid crab, a gravid shrimp, a gravid shrimp costs 1 lakh rupee. For those who are there in aquaculture, who are maintaining the aquaculture, they'll be knowing one shrimp, which is a gravid, it costs about 1 lakh rupee. From Vizag, it has been shifted to what is it called, other places where they wanted to culture it. Okay, so because it is gravid means it is having millions, lakhs of eggs, they'll produce lakhs of larvae and ultimately we'll be getting the lakh of prawn or shrimp. So that's what I wish to let you know is criticality of production. Every specimen produces, they produce more offspring than can survive. There is a high death rate among the specimens because of the natural selection, evolutionary forces operating on them and struggle for existence. Individuals compete for the limited resources. So the limited resources recently we experienced in Andhra Pradesh when there was heavy rain, we were unable to move out of the houses, then we felt the limited resources that are there around us, either food, water, space, and mates, and variation. The more variation within a species, the more likely it will survive. That is, the more variation we accumulate over the time, so the more likely that we survive. So that's what the students, if you work well and study well and understand the concepts and different concepts, there's every chance for you all to flourish. We only localize and endemize your thoughts. So we cannot, what is it called, spread across. So survival of the fittest. The individuals with the best traits, adaptation, will survive. Best traits and adapting to a particular environment will survive. So inheritance of useful variation. The individual selected by nature pass on their useful variation to the next generation. So all these variations will get manifested over the generation. Now, Charles Darwin has got the ideas. Not just like that, ideas will not come. They're all shaped. So that's what you all have to go around, either Horsley Hills or Aruku Valley or Nelapattu or regional science centers, and get to know the ideas. Whatever we study in the school may not be sufficient to ignite our minds. So he has gone through the Lamarckian theory of evolution. He has gone through the apprenticeship with Hanslow and several other things. He also made a good reading of that James Hutton, the theory of geological change. So those were the days the focus was on geology and astronomy, and force of change, Earth's surface and shape. Changes are slow. Earth is much older than the thousands of years of emergence of life. That's what his concept. All these things were understood by Charles Darwin. The other very loyal proponent of Charles Darwin was Sir Charles Lyell. He has become knighted. He is knighted, but not Charles Darwin, because his concept was against the religion. So Sir Charles Lyell, his principles of geography, is a great geologist. And geographical features can be built up or torn down. Darwin thought if Earth changed over time, what about life? How is that life become still? And okay, now ideas that shaped Darwin's thinking were in Lamarck use and disuse theory concept also, which Charles Darwin has gone through, wherein the tendency towards perfection, Tirupati was a good example. Lamarck proposed use and disuse theory, birds using forearm. So unfortunately, Charles Darwin, as I indicated earlier, could not go through Gregor Mendel's theories of inheritance. Though Gregor Mendel was contemporary, he was from Austria in Europe only. So this was the Lamarck's classical example. Classical example, everyone must have gone through very nicely. Original short-necked ancestor of this giraffe. Later, neck is now stretching. So further stretching. Now this is the ultimate neck now. So with this, giraffe is now seen presently. So like this, there are good many number of examples. I will show you later. Now, ideas that shaped Darwin's thinking more profoundly than the previous two are the population growth. That is Thomas Malthus, 18th century English economist. He was not speaking on biology. He is an economist person. Only human growth he was mentioning, human population. If population grew, that is more babies are born than die. Insufficient living space, food runs out. So that's what is concept. Thomas Malthus, all those economic students are reading this. So that's what I wish to let you know, that biology, life science is meant for everyone. There is enormous amount of data, there is enormous amount of habitats, there is an enormous amount of diversity that any statistician can work, any computer person can work. So Darwin applied this theory to animals. That is, if the population of animals grew, then what happens? So now this is what I wish to let you know. All this text that I'm now narrating to you, explaining to you, I borrowed from this fiction, but James Lowenberg. So thanks to Dr. Professor Ahuja, who gave me this book. And he wrote a fiction on Charles Darwin, evolution and natural selection. Evolution or change over time is the process by which modern organisms have descended from ancient organisms. So this is the concept made Charles Darwin to face a challenge during his times. Now everyone can freely speak on this concept of evolution. No one will question you. No one will question you. Okay, the scientific theory is a well-supported, testable explanation of phenomena that occurred in the natural selection. Okay, so we are all having several Indian epics. Now, there are popular science fictions. These are all popular science fictions, original species, DNA pioneer, and genome, several other things, and selfish, and other genes and everything. So, every one of you start reading this type of general scientific fictions, popular fiction. And I also tell youngsters like you all, prepare small monographs, either on Darwin, either on Charles Darwin, either on Lamarck, either on Gregor Mendel, or even Louis Pasteur and others. Okay, so as a result, we can provide this small monographs in this regional science center, so that we contribute to the science, so that it will continue. This type of attempt by the successors will continue. So popular science, as now we have been saying, this Bhagavad Gita small versions have come, Quran small versions have come. Like this, I encourage, promote the youngsters to do this type of attempt in preparing small volumes, just about 25 to 30 pages, so that people can easily read and understand what is DNA, how the vaccination has started developing, and what is the genome, what is natural selection. Most of the people, other than the scientists, may not be knowing what is natural selection even now. So see that like Bhagavad Gita, like Quran, it gets spread across the population. So now let us see the descent of man. See here in the organic evolution of Charles Darwin, we are not speaking the ascent of man. Ascent of man comes in a different way. It is our descent of man, where the rudimentary body parts are also there. We are all descended from the previously existing specimens. So now in this particular thing, we are seeing the canine tooth. See here the canine tooth in the carnivores, even in the primates, they're all meant for tearing. Its enemies are tearing the prey. That is the basic function of the canine tooth. But let us see now. So here, this is the canine. See, if you see the incisor, they are flat. Incisor is the flat. And again, this again incisor is flat. But when you come to this canine teeth, it is a little bit pointed. It is a little bit pointed. Okay. For some people, it's still more pointed. So let us see the text now. This what here little bit pointed. But in the case of the incisors, it is straight. It is straight here. So this is little bit pointed. Okay. So the edge of human canine tooth is surmounted by a large pointed cusp. This is called a cusp. Instead of being nearly straight as in incisors. So in man, canine teeth are perfectly efficient instruments for mastication. Nevertheless, this tooth no longer serves man as a special weapon for tearing his enemies or prey. Its proper function, that is what its proper function been seen lower in the other ancestors. Hence, it is said to be rudimentary. This type of the canine teeth is rudimentary plus. So like this, there is a rudimentary tail that's called coccyx. We're all tail-bearing specimens. All vertebrates, that is chordates, vertebrates, are all having the tail. We also have got a rudimentary tail, vestigial tail, vestigial. So use and disuse parts, I will make a mention here. When the eye is destroyed because of some accident, because of some reason, if the eye is lost, the optic nerve that is connected to the eye slowly becomes atrophied. It is not active. So that's what use and disuse theory, and particularly with the giraffe also we're mentioning the same thing. Use of neck made it to have an elongated neck. When one kidney ceases to function, because of some disease, the other kidney increases in size and does more work, double work. So that's what use and disuse parts, it is common here. So now this is a very classical example given in all evolutionary books for biology students. Embryological evidence showing ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. That is, life history recapitulates the evolutionary history. Ontogeny means life history, recapitulates evolutionary history. Wherein if you see the fish, earlier baby, that is fetus, you can say, look like a human being, where there is visceral arches, where there is prosencephalon, mesencephalon, rhombencephalon, all that are being shown. Well, in the later stages, again, in the later stages, if you see the pig and the calf, rabbit, and human, they all look like at the fetal stages. So that's what embryologically we can see that all these organisms have got some similarity. As a result, no doubt that organic evolution happened. Natural selection is going on. Natural selection is going on. Organic evolution happened. So as a result, now Charles Darwin, even after 200 years, we are commemorating his birth anniversary. So developing embryos of different organisms appear similar during maturation, and distinctive differences develop late in the process. Okay. Now, as any concept is being developed, though for which there is a leader like that of Charles Darwin, there are several other people who associates. In that process, I am now putting 2 or 3 here. One is Sir Charles Lyell. Sir Charles Lyell was a great geologist, and he accompanied all through Charles Darwin and promoted the concept of natural selection. The next one is Alfred Russel Wallace. Alfred Russel Wallace was basically, what is it called, promoting the natural selection. He is a biologist. He developed this concept, he supported, and he took the data of Charles Darwin and presented in the conferences. And he is a Hooker, Sir Joseph Dalton Hooker, a botanist, English botanist, and he also was there associated with Charles Darwin all through, because Darwin collected 5 years of data through his H M S Beagle. That is enormous data. It's voluminous data. That needs to be compiled, interpretation has to be given. So that's what all these experts have associated with Charles Darwin to unravel the concept. So now let us see the terms arose of Darwin introduced the concept of natural selection. Allopathic speciation, sympatric speciation, sexual dimorphism, genetic drift. Allopathic speciation means there is a mechanical barrier like Isthmus of Panama. Sympatric species means there is a genome variation. And sexual dimorphism, as we have seen in the case of the blue-footed booby. And again, genetic drift happens in the small populations. Founder effect is very interesting, wherein there is a retinitis pigmentosa, a defect that has become prominent in Kunha Islands of this British colony. Like mutations, Neo-Darwinism, now everyone is speaking about the Darwin concept, all scientists. See, what's happening is many Nobel laureate topics have become obsolete. Okay, but Charles Darwin concept has never become obsolete. Now Neo-Darwinism has come. Even biochemical evidences for natural selection, Darwinian theory, are also being in the process of explanation. Sibling species. Sibling species means those are the species which look alike, but they will not interbreed. So it's very nice, interesting features. And polytext species concept, gene flow, barriers, genetic isolation, physical isolation, homology, parallelism, convergence, synapomorphism. Synapomorphism means the ancestral characters that are being shared to all the descendants, like mammary glands in the case of the mammals. And homoplasy, convergent evolution, Hardy-Weinberg law that says allelic frequencies and gene frequencies remain constant in a population. Allelic frequencies, gene frequencies remain constant in a population unless there is no evolutionary force. Okay, so that's what Hardy-Weinberg law. Very good example are being taken from Africa. Sickle cell anemia, and malarial examples. And allele frequencies, heterozygosity. Heterozygosity is an advantage. It is survival advantage. Okay, and there is genetic load and genetic depth. Genetic load means in a population, if there are deleterious genes, there is the population undergoes a sort of a genetic load, and genetic depth means the individuals in the population, if they are unable to breed, that constitute the genetic death, like that adaptive peak, coevolution. And again, the mega, that is molecular evolution and genetic analysis, software suite. Molecular evolution and genetic analysis, software suite. So this is developed by one of our Indian by name S. Kumar. Okay, so like this, there are several hundreds of the tools like HighLeaf, RxSmall, several things, and our computational biologists can make use of this type of bewildering biological data and develop this. And now let us come to almost to the last slide. How natural selection operated on man. See, we human beings, we are not away from natural selection. We are not away from organic what is it called, evolution. We're all part of the total organic evolution. Let us see a few features of man, whether these features are nurtured by natural selection or which of the features are nurtured by natural selection. See now, weak features of man compared to his predecessors. So we all presume that we are derived from apes, gorilla, and others, orangutan and others. Let us see. We are all naked. We do not have the fur. We do not have the scales on the skin, and we are totally unprotected state of the body. Is it that nature selected for human beings? And absence of great teeth and claws for defense. So our teeth are only useful for crushing the cooked food. Not even majority of uncooked food we cannot feed on these teeth, whatever that we are having. And we are having the weak strength compared to our predecessors. And the speed with which we move is also low. And slight power of discovering food, natural food that is available around, we are unable to identify is it our food or not unless it is cooked, unless we do the agriculture. And avoiding danger by smell. So olfactory sense is less for us in human beings. And again, we cannot climb quickly, and so we cannot escape from enemies. And thus man become larger and stronger, or smaller and weaker than his ancestors. Okay, so where did the natural selection work? All these are all the weak states of man compared to our ancestors. So then how is that man evolved? So let us see the super states of man in the contemporary world. intellectual power. Intellectual power. So the intellectual power is learning, reasoning, thinking, and memory. This is the natural selection operated on man. Okay, so learning, reasoning, thinking, and memory. So all this is made possible because we are also having a long gestation period of nearly 9 months. So that's what in one of the Indian epics also it is said that Abhimanyu learned this, what is it called, the Padmavyuham, while he was there in the womb. So it is only an example I'm telling. That means the long gestation period makes the brain to develop well. So that's what here, the learning, reasoning, thinking, and memory, consolidation, and complex behaviors, they're all the intellectual power. That is the selection, natural selection. They're operated the natural selection. All these features are secondary, tertiary features, not the original, what is it called, the primary features. Okay. Then social qualities, giving and receiving aids, compassion, sympathy, tolerance, love, innovation, and agriculture. So these are all the social qualities. So these are all the features on which the nature selection has taken place. So with this natural selection that arose from competition from one tribe with another tribe, So once we see in the neighbor house, we improve our house. So that's what from one tribe with another tribe, and consequent inheritance of traits, consequent adoption of the traits, inheritance of the traits have made man to rise to the present high position in the organic scale, to lead as a social being. So thus our existence follow the concept of natural selection propounded by Charles Darwin. Okay. So with this, I acknowledge the online resources, public domains for the use of the content in this webinar lecture. I acknowledge Bird James Lowenberg book on evolution and natural selection for using the text. I acknowledge Professor M.R. Ahuja for sparing books on Darwin. And I acknowledge Vigyan University for allowing me to present this webinar. And I also sincerely acknowledge the Regional Science Center officials from Tirupati for making this presentation successful. So a few questions here to contemplate are, why were there no rabbits in Australia, despite the presence of habitats, grasslands that seemed perfect for them? Why were there no kangaroos in England? Why had so many species disappeared? How were extinct species related to the living species? These are a few points, and let our listeners contemplate on this, and let the listeners contribute small monographs to our regional science centers. So on any topic of our evolution, natural selection, and all those things, your vaccination, Edward Jenner, Louis Pasteur, and all that. Okay, so it helps for the successive generations. It becomes a fiction, science fiction. Okay, if everyone keeps writing on science fiction, our what is it called? The supernatural beliefs will keep aside. We all become scientifically oriented society. Okay. With all this, I thank you all. Thank you, one and all. So I completed, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It was really, a great talk, actually.
Yeah.
So let's just go for questions with any of the audience. Actually, got audience ఎవరికైనా ఏదైనా క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉంటే మీరు డైరెక్ట్లీ చాట్ చేయొచ్చు. సో చాట్ బాక్స్ వేసారంటే మీరు జస్ట్ పోస్ట్ ఇట్ టు సార్, ఆర్ ఎల్స్ మీరు డైరెక్ట్ గా క్వశ్చన్స్ ఏదైనా ఉంటే సార్ని అడగచ్చు.
అడగండి.
If anyone has got any doubt అనుకోండి, లేకుంటే ప్రెజెంటేషన్లో కానీ, లేకుంటే ఈ యొక్క డార్విన్ గురించి కానీ, థియరీ ఆఫ్ ఎవల్యూషన్ గురించి కానీ, సో ఏదైనా మీకు డౌట్ ఉంటే, లేకపోతే ఏదైనా అడగాలనుకుంటే ప్లీజ్ ఫీల్ ఫ్రీ టు ఆస్క్.
So I am within the time, sir.
Yes, sir. Perfect, sir.
So So I appeal all the people who are there among this webinar to think and contemplate. Even I too will help you in preparing monographs so that we will contribute to our regional science center. So that no, it's not the question of our contribution. If everyone likes this, the science will spread across. Instead of simply listening some other what is it called, beliefs. Okay.
So there is a question in the chat box actually.
Yeah.
Is man and all animals still evolving? So evolution.
Yeah.
So if so, then why cannot why are we not able to see it actually?
Yeah. Is man and all animals still evolving? If so, why you cannot see? See, man is evolving. Yeah, certainly. And what are the visible changes? See, you all must be knowing. See, in my life or in your life, you must have seen how our grandparents were there. How are we now? How will be our future people? Okay, so like this, within the generations of 1 or 2 generations itself, we are seeing the variation. As I have shown the grid, there are 10,000 generations. 10,000 generations, there is good amount of variation one can notice. So the variation, these variations will get manifested in the form of alleles or genes. So those genes, once they get manifested, they become altogether a separate species. Because the evolution we are witnessing over the generations. But to see on the spot to see, you should not take man. Man's life is nearly 100 years. On the spot, if you want to see any of this evolutionary variation, either we have to take bacteria, or we have to take a virus, or we have to take a small specimens which are having what is it called, highly proliferative nature. Okay, even among animals also still we are facing the evolution. You are all quite familiar. If you take up the dinosaur, okay, if you take up some of the specimens like Spinodon did not undergo any evolution. It is retaining its characters. And if you take up some of the specimens like Peripatus, it did not undergo an evolution. So like this, there are a few specimens which did not undergo evolution, means they retain characters since ages. But the man's characters are not that much old. We are all recent characters. Okay, so they're all visible changes only. So the articulation that we are having today, okay, so in human beings, as I have given you a few of the features, like we are weak, we are not running as fast as that of animals. Okay, our skin is naked, we are vulnerable for any predation, but that is not the primary feature. Our primary feature is the brain development. So as a result, the vocabulary that we are having now, okay, so all those things are quite different compared to years together. Okay, so the other question, Gopi Chandan, I too can answer this question. So let's wait for Gopi Chandan to answer.
Yes, sir.
సార్ మీరు అవకాశం ఇచ్చిన దానికి సార్ థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ అండి. ఐ హోప్ ఐఎమ్ ఆడిబుల్.
వెరీ హ్యాపీ టు సీ యు.
గ్రేట్. నేను కృపానిధి గారు స్టూడెంట్ అండి. 1982 నుంచి ఆయన స్టూడెంట్ నేను. సార్ సాయిరామ్ అండి, నమస్కారం అండి. గ్రేట్. స్వామి, దీనికి డైరెక్ట్ ఆన్సర్ ఉందండి సార్. ఐ హోప్ యూ విల్ అగ్రీ సార్. మనకి కంట్లో కనపడకుండా ఉన్నా కూడా కో ఎవల్యూషన్ అనేది ఒకటి కంటిన్యూస్ గా జరుగుతుంది. కో ఎవల్యూషన్ అంటారు. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ క్రాస్ రెసిస్టెన్స్ ఇన్ ఇన్సెక్ట్స్. మనం ఇప్పటి వరకు పెస్టిసైడ్స్ వాడాం. మనం వాడకుండా ఉండే పెస్టిసైడ్స్ కూడా కొత్త జనరేషన్స్ గా వచ్చే పెస్టిసైడ్స్ కూడా రెసిస్టెన్స్ ఉంటాయి. అంటే బయోకెమికల్ రెసిస్టెన్స్ గెట్స్ జనరేటెడ్ by itself in the case of insects. Even plants continuously co-evolve too, and this co-evolution happens generation after generation. We know what is the life cycle of plants. We know what is the life cycle of insects. So we have got a very limited brain, I tell you, really. How much of science do we understand beyond our lifetime? Are we saying the world did not exist before we came in and the world will not exist after we go? I think the landscape of creation is much bigger. The landscape of creation is much bigger. Therefore, ఇప్పుడు వరకు మనకు తెలిసిన దానికి పట్టుకుని మనం ఏదైనా ఒక ఫినామినన్ ని ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయాలని అనుకున్నప్పుడు మన లిమిట్స్ అండ్ లిమిటేషన్స్ వచ్చేస్తాయి. ఆ లిమిట్స్ అండ్ లిమిటేషన్స్ ద్వారా మనం ఏం చూస్తున్నామో దాన్ని మనం ఇంటర్ప్రిట్ చేస్తాం. సరే, సో అటువంటి ఒక దృశ్యముతో మనం చూసామంటే మనకు కంటికి కనపడకుండా పోవచ్చు. We may not be able to, as Krupanidhi garu cheppinattu, we may or may not be able to perceive, but the scientific fact is co-evolution happens almost on a moment-to-moment basis. Co-evolution happens on a moment-to-moment basis. There are hundreds of evidences in insect-plant interaction, microbial interactions, and so on. Sir, Krupanidhi garu, can I take half a minute more, sir?
Yeah, please continue. It is question answer hour only. Continue.
Sir, మీరే నేర్పించారండి. When there is cyclic oscillations between predators and bacterial populations నీళ్ళు సాయిల్స్ లని ఉన్నాయి కదా, దాన్ని ప్రిడేట్ చేస్తున్నవి ప్రోటోజోవా అన్నమాట. When the bacterial population goes down, protozoan population also will come down, because protozoa knows that the amount of energy that is spent in chasing the population is lesser than the amount of energy it will get when consumes that bacterial population. What is the level of understanding? What is the level of sensitivity? Even in the case of microbial populations, there is tremendous chemical ecological interaction that continuously happens. What we see is only a small part of this wonderful mosaic of nature. That takes me to my last point. Krupanidhi garu, million thanks to you, and I want everybody to know what a wonderful teacher you are. Krupanidhi garu maaku inkokati nerpincharandi. Mana Indian Constitution lo Article 51AH అని ఒకటి ఉందండి. వేరొక్కది ఏ ఒక్క దేశంలో కూడా వాళ్ళ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ లో ఈ సైంటిఫిక్ టెంపర్ గురించి అస్సలు లేదు. సరే, అంటే ఏమిటండి, ఈవెన్ అవర్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ టెల్స్ us డెవలప్ అండ్ ప్రాక్టీస్ సైంటిఫిక్ టెంపర్, డెవలప్ అండ్ ప్రాక్టీస్ అండ్ ఆర్టికల్ 51AH. కానీ దాని మోస్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ యూనిక్ ఫీచర్ ఏమిటి? The most unique feature is to recognize what I know is only limited. Knowledge grows continuously. There are frontiers of science which I do not know. There will be newer frontiers of science. That humility to understand that science evolves and so scientific knowledge evolves is most important, and that is the essence of scientific temper. I will stop before you ask me to. It was such a lovely chance connecting with you, Andy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for getting connected. So here, one more question from one of Neelakanta. How can we answer those people who are not agreeing Darwin's theory in this period also? Because there are several people who will not agree anything. Whatever they say, that will become a dogma. That's what they feel. But there are evidences. Now, embryological evidences, the diagram which I have shown, have that and show to the people. And apart from that, as many students and college teachers and scientists write small monographs and keep circulating, then because the big fictions what I have shown you in this PPTs, there are many people may not have the chance or opportunity to read. So I encourage the people to write small fictions. It doesn't cost much, and we can really do it. And through that, we can make them to get convinced. Even those who do not encourage this organic evolution and all this. Okay. Any more?
Sir, I hope we don't have any more questions. But the presentation was excellent, sir. Actually, I hope most of the teachers who have joined today were the biology teachers from state board.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yes. So we got one more question, sir.
Can I talk?
Parallel evolution.
Yes, sir, parallel evolution.
So there are several topics like convergent evolution, parallel evolution, homoplasy, and all these things are there. But now, if you take up the example of it's true zoological thing, from reptiles we are having mammals. We have got the birds. Birds and reptiles, birds and mammals have taken the parallel line of evolution. Okay, so that's what is the best example wherein a group of reptiles have given the evolution of the birds, and wherein they developed the pneumatic bones and they altered these forelimbs for wings. And in the other line, this other thing called the mammalian evolution. Mammalian evolution has taken wherein they maintain the body warmth. They also maintain the tetrapod nature, and they all become climbing and fast runners and several others. So the parallel evolution, the best example is between birds and mammals. Between birds and mammals, who have taken the origin from the reptiles. Okay. Convergent evolution is also there.
Yes, sir. Manohar, sir, please.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you all of you for conducting the beautiful webinar. And thank you, Krupanidhi, sir. Actually, I'm a biology teacher from Anantapur.
Very good.
Actually, my students are also in the webinar. This is the very fruitful session for them. And one thing I have to appreciate you, sir, because from my 10th class itself, I had a doubt how to show the natural selection in a understandable manner to the students. The graph and the description you have shown natural selection and adaptation of species, it was very useful, sir, and it was very easy to understand how the nature selects the survival to the fittest one and how evolution occurs. Thank you very much, sir, for this webinar. And I want to thank our Biology Teacher Association, Neelu sir, who shared this webinar link to us also. He was also in the webinar. Thank you very much, sir. The Regional Science Center Tirupati and Krupanidhi sir and Gopi Chandran sir. All of you, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, there's a question from Harihara Reddy, sir. So Harihara Reddy, sir, is actually a retired headmaster. And,
Yeah. So here, good afternoon, sir. Harihara Reddy garu. Good afternoon, sir. How to develop good qualities and remove others, sir. Okay, good qualities. Okay, so what is bad, what is good? That we have to distinguish. So it is we are talking in terms of the human beings, I think, not with regard to the animals. Good qualities means which are acceptable in the society. Which are acceptable in the society, they are said to be good qualities. What is acceptable? Okay, what is acceptable? We should not hurt people. We should not hurt people. Okay, if you not hurt people, at the same time you can help people. All the time we cannot help, not possible as human beings. To the maximum extent, do not hurt. Speak gently. Okay, so never speak hurting others. So that is the first step of having a good quality. If you start humiliating, if you start heckling people, then your mind goes in that direction only. Okay, crooked direction. So never heckle people. Okay, and never hurt people. Okay, so you may not be possible to regard everyone. So at least smile it and maintain tolerance and keep yourself in a position to help others. Okay, so there it slowly makes you to imbibe the good qualities. What is the quality of a man? So we are all social beings. That's what I told you in last definition. We are all social beings. As a social being, what we have to do? As what is that? Ant is also social being. What does it do? It never hurts another ant. Any ant you see never hurts another ant. It supplies the material to the other ant takes the material to the other ant. Like that, there is a passing of the information. So that's what, see that you go in tune with the society. So always one more point also, now there is a big revolution in human adaptations. Now the truth, what you think, may not be the truth for the others. the truth, what you think may not be the truth for others. Okay, so let us not what is it called, defend this is the only the truth, everyone follow this truth. That is not the thing. Okay, the evolution, the society will dictate, the society will tell what the truth is. It's not the individual to tell what the truth is. Okay, so never hurt people, always be happy with your society. First, if you get adopted well with your parents, you get adopted well with your parents and sisters, you can get adopted to anyone on the earth. To anyone on the earth. Okay, so that's what here good qualities emanate from the house, and it can spread to the. Okay, thank you, Manohar.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Actually, it was
Thank
a
you,
very
sir.
good presentation, and most of our students and teachers who have joined it definitely would have taken some this thing from you. And as you told, the passion, actually, the how the Darwin actually ran behind his passion to though he said something else and his passion was something else. So even students and who are in the webinar, actually go behind your passion, and definitely you will succeed. And that was actually a great webinar, sir. And sir, thank you, sir. Actually, Gopi Chandran, sir, you actually rightly gave us a right speaker, sir.
Yeah.
And on behalf of Regional Science Center and all the participants and who has attended this webinar, we thank Gopi Chandran, sir, and especially Krupanidhi, sir, for like spending their valuable time and sharing a lot of information and encouraging our students and teachers to do something new. Actually, like as sir told about a monograph. Definitely, we invite all the students who just wanted any help from our side. And as we have got a nature club here, please join our nature club, and we go for nature camps here, and definitely we'll do something new, and try to keep a data in every, like whatever the field it is. We'll try to keep a data and make a good library of kind of thing. So thank you, sir, and behalf of Regional Science Center, we thank all the participants, like teachers and students who have joined this webinar, and have a great evening. Thank you very much.
With regard, a few of the participants are asking the PPT, sir. I will send you the PPT. You can share to others.
Definitely, sir. Definitely, sir.
I got your email. I will send to you, sir.
Yes,
Please
yes.
share to others. They will be using for their classwork.
Definitely, sir. Definitely, sir. Thank you, sir. So kind of you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.